Hey there. Tonight we're doing something a little different, a little pedestrian. We're stepping into the life of a ninja messenger in the mountains of central Japan during the Sengoku period. Mid-1500s, if you're keeping track. Which you probably aren't because you're trying to fall asleep. This is not a story about assassinations or rooftop acrobatics, or throwing stars embedded in someone's throat. This is about walking. Specifically, about walking 30 miles through mountain passes while pretending to be a charcoal merchant, carrying information in your head that could get you tortured if anyone figures out what you actually do for a living. Before we begin, go ahead and like the video if you enjoy what we do here. Subscribe if you'd like more of this. More historically accurate espionage drudgery narrated with the enthusiasm it deserves. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world, all of us united in our appreciation for the finer points of feudal Japanese information logistics. Now, dim the lights. Get comfortable. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum that drowns out the existential questions. Let's begin. You are a shinobi messenger, not a warrior, not an assassin, not the person who scales castle walls or poisons tea ceremonies, or does any of the things people imagine when they hear the word ninja. You're a courier. Your job is to move information from one place to another without anyone noticing you exist. You carry messages between warlords, between allied clans, between people who need to communicate, but can't afford to be seen communicating. Sometimes the message is written on rice paper, hidden in the lining of your sandal. Sometimes it's memorized. Sometimes it's a single word that means something specific to the person you're delivering it to, and nothing at all to anyone else. You are very good at not being remembered. This is the skill that keeps you alive, not speed, not strength, not the ability to fight your way out of a bad situation. The ability to walk into a village, spend the night at an inn, and leave the next morning without a single person being able to describe your face accurately. You've been doing this for 6 years now. 6 years of walking. 6 years of changing your name, your accent, your story. 6 years of sleeping in strange rooms and eating cold rice and wondering if the person sitting across from you at the inn is also a messenger or a spy for someone else, or just a tired merchant who doesn't care about anything except the price of silk in Kyoto. 6 years of being no one in particular. The work is not glamorous. Let's be clear about that right now. There are no legends about people like you. No songs. No stories passed down through generations. About the time you successfully delivered a message about troop movements to a minor warlord's retainer in a village no one's ever heard of. You don't even get paid that well, but you're still here, still walking, still carrying other people's secrets through mountain passes and across rivers and into places where the wrong word to the wrong person means you disappear and no one ever finds out what happened to you. So let's talk about how you got here. You didn't choose this life exactly. No one wakes up as a child and thinks, I want to spend my adult years pretending to be a traveling peddler while memorizing coded messages about military alliances. But you also didn't not choose it. You grew up in a mountain village in Iga province, small place, maybe 200 people. Everyone knew everyone. Your family farmed rice in the terraced fields that clung to the hillside, like they were afraid of falling off. Your father also worked as a guide sometimes, leading travelers through the mountain passes when the main roads were too dangerous or too watched. He knew the hidden routes, the ones that didn't appear on any map, the ones that required you to wade through a freezing stream for half a mile, or climb over a rockfall that looked impassable. until you knew exactly where to put your hands. He taught you those routes, not because he was training you for anything specific, just because that's what fathers did in your village. They taught their children how to move through the mountains without getting lost or killed. Practical knowledge, survival knowledge. You learned which paths flooded in the spring, which ones were watched by bandits, which ones had shrines where you could leave offerings and sleep safely for the night, because even bandits respected certain places. You learned how to read the weather by looking at the clouds over the peaks, how to find water when the streams ran dry, how to walk for 12 hours without stopping, pacing yourself so you didn't burn out before you reached the next village. You learned how to be quiet, not silent. Silence is suspicious, but quiet in the way that doesn't draw attention, the kind of quiet that lets you blend into the background noise of the world. Footsteps that sound like everyone else's footsteps. Breathing that doesn't change when someone looks at you. You were good at it. Good enough that when you were 15, a man came to your village and asked your father if you were available for work. The man didn't say what kind of work. Your father didn't ask. That's how these things worked. You didn't ask questions. You didn't demand explanations. Someone needed something done, and if you were capable of doing it, you did it. That was the arrangement. The man gave your father some money. Not a lot. Enough. And then you left with him. The training, if you can call it that, was not what you'd expect. There was no secret compound. No ancient master teaching you the ways of the shadow. No dramatic speeches about honor or loyalty or the importance of the mission. There was a house in the mountains, smaller than your family's house. One room for sleeping, one room for everything else. The man, you never learned his name, and you understood that you weren't supposed to ask, lived there alone. He taught you by example. He would leave the house in the morning dressed as a merchant. He'd walk to the nearest town, spend the day there, and come back in the evening. Then he'd ask you what he did wrong. At first you had no idea what he was talking about. He did everything right, as far as you could tell. He looked like a merchant. He acted like a merchant. He bought things. He sold things. He talked to people about the weather and the roads and the price of rice. But that was the problem, he explained. He was too much like a merchant. Real merchants don't perform being merchants. They just are merchants. They're tired. They're distracted. They're thinking about their profit margins and their sore feet, and whether their wife is angry at them for being away so long. They're not trying to convince anyone of anything. You're not trying to be believable, he said. You're trying to be boring. Boring is invisible. So you practiced being boring. You'd walk to the town dressed as a pilgrim. You'd spend the day at the temple. You'd come back, and he'd tell you everything you did that was slightly off. Your sandals were too new. Your prayer beads were too clean. You bowed too formally. Real pilgrims are exhausted and distracted. And half the time they're just going through the motions because they've been walking for 3 weeks, and they've forgotten why they started this journey in the first place. You try again, this time as a labourer, a farmer, a peddler selling cheap pottery. Each time he'd find the small things that didn't fit, the way you held your shoulders, the way you made eye contact, the way you responded when someone asked you a question. You learned to lie by telling the truth. That was the trick, he said. Don't invent an elaborate backstory. Just take your real life and change 1 or 2 details. You're still from a mountain village. You still grew up farming rice. You still know the mountain passes. But maybe your village is in a different province. Maybe you're traveling to visit a sick relative. Maybe you're looking for work because the harvest was bad this year. Simple lies. Boring lies. The kind of lies that no one bothers to question because they're too mundane to be suspicious. You also learned how to listen, not just to what people said, but to what they didn't say. The way a village headman's voice changed when he talked about the local lord. The way travellers at an inn stopped talking when certain topics came up. The way a checkpoint guard's eyes moved when he was deciding whether to search your bag or wave you through. You learned to read the space between words. Because that's where the real information lived. Not in the official announcements or the public declarations, but in the quiet conversations people had when they thought no one important was listening. And you learned that no one thought you were important. That was your greatest asset. You were just another traveller, just another face in the crowd, just another person trying to get from one place to another without any trouble. Forgettable. After 6 months, the man sent you on your first real assignment. It was simple. Almost insultingly simple. You were to travel to a town 2 days away, go to a specific inn, and ask the innkeeper if they had any rooms available facing the garden. If they said yes, you were to stay the night. If they said no, you were to leave immediately and return home. That was it. No message to deliver. No information to gather. Just a test to see if you could follow instructions without drawing attention to yourself. You went. You walked the main road during the day, staying with the other travellers. You didn't talk to anyone unless they talked to you first. You didn't ask questions. You didn't look around like you were searching for something. You were just another person on the road. When you reached the town, you found the inn. You asked about rooms facing the garden. The innkeeper said yes. You stayed the night. You ate dinner with the other guests. You listened to them complain about the roads and the weather and the taxes. You learned nothing useful. The next morning, you walked back home. The man nodded when you returned. He didn't say you did well. He didn't say anything really. He just gave you another assignment. This one was slightly more complicated. You were to deliver a message to a contact in a different town. The message was memorized. 3 sentences. You were to repeat them exactly, in order, to a man who worked at a sake brewery on the east side of town. You'd know him because he'd be wearing a blue headband. If he wasn't wearing a blue headband, you were to leave without saying anything. If anyone asked why you were at the brewery, you were to say you were looking for work. You went. The man was wearing a blue headband. You delivered the message. He nodded. You left. No one asked why you were there. You walked home. This continued for months. Small assignments. Simple tasks. Each one slightly more complex than the last. You learned the routes. The safe houses. The people you could trust and the people you couldn't. You learned which roads had checkpoints and which ones didn't. You learned how to change your appearance just enough that someone who saw you yesterday wouldn't recognize you today. You learned that most people don't actually look at each other. They see what they expect to see. A merchant, a pilgrim, a labourer. They don't see you. They see the role you're playing. And as long as you play it well enough, they never look closer. After a year, the man told you that you were ready. Ready for what, you asked. He didn't answer. He just gave you a new assignment, a longer one. A message to be delivered to a contact 3 provinces away. You'd be travelling for 2 weeks, maybe more, depending on the roads. You'd be on your own. No one would be checking on you. No one would know if you failed. You'd just disappear, and eventually someone would assume you were dead or captured or had decided to run away and start a new life somewhere else. That was the job. You took it, and you've been taking assignments ever since. The work has a rhythm to it. You spend most of your time waiting for the next assignment, waiting for your contact to show up, waiting for the right moment to leave town without anyone noticing. Waiting is the largest part of the job. You've gotten good at it. You've learned how to exist in a space without making an impression. How to sit in a tea house for 3 hours without anyone remembering you were there. How to walk through a market without a single vendor trying to sell you anything because you don't look like someone worth the effort. You've learned how to be a ghost in daylight. When an assignment comes, it usually starts the same way. Someone finds you. You never know how they know where you are. You never ask. They just appear. Sometimes it's the same person. Sometimes it's someone new. They give you the information. Where to go, what to deliver, what to listen for, what to avoid. Sometimes the message is written. More often, it's memorized. Written messages are dangerous. They can be found. They can be read. They can be used as evidence. Memorized messages disappear the moment you deliver them. You prefer memorized messages. The instructions are usually specific but not detailed. You're told the destination, the contact, the recognition signal, but you're not told why. You're not told what the message means. You're not told what happens after you deliver it. You're just the messenger. And that's fine. You don't need to know. Knowing things makes you valuable. Being valuable makes you a target. You'd rather be forgettable. Today's assignment is typical. Your contact found you 3 days ago in a village near the Kiso River. You were staying at a small inn, pretending to be a peddler selling wooden combs. Not a great cover, honestly. The combs were cheap and poorly made. But that was the point. You weren't trying to actually sell anything. You were just trying to look like someone who was trying to sell something and failing. The contact sat down next to you at dinner. Didn't say anything at first. Just ate their rice and listened to the other guests talk about the road conditions. Then, quietly, they told you where to go. A town in the mountains. 4 days walk, maybe 5 if the weather turns. You're to find a man who runs a small shrine on the northern edge of town. You'll know it's the right shrine because there's a stone lantern out front with a crack running down the left side. You're to tell him that the plum blossoms bloomed early this year. That's the message. 1 sentence. You don't know what it means. You don't need to know. The contact also told you to be careful on the main road. There's been an increase in checkpoints. Some minor lord is nervous about something. Troop movements probably. Or banditry. Or just general paranoia. Doesn't matter. Checkpoints are checkpoints. You'll avoid them if you can. If you can't, you'll have a story ready. You always have a story ready. You spend the next morning preparing. Preparation is not dramatic. It's not putting on a black outfit and strapping weapons to your body. It's changing clothes, adjusting your appearance, becoming someone else. Today, you're going to be a traveling monk, not a high-ranking monk, not someone important, just a low-level monk from a small temple traveling to visit another temple in the mountains. You're carrying a few religious texts, some prayer beads, a wooden bowl for begging. You've done this before. It's a good cover. People don't ask monks too many questions. They're expected to be quiet. They're expected to keep to themselves. And most importantly, they're expected to travel alone. You change into the monk's robe you keep hidden in your bag. It's plain, undyed hemp, a little worn. You've had it for 2 years now, and you've made sure it looks appropriately used. There are small stains near the hem, a few loose threads, a patch on the sleeve where you repaired. a tear that you deliberately made. Details matter. You shave your head. Not completely. You're not actually a monk, and a fully shaved head would require maintenance you can't always manage on the road. But you keep your hair short enough that it looks like you're making an effort. You practice your walk. Monks walk differently than merchants. Slower, more deliberate, like they're not in a hurry to get anywhere, because they've already accepted that the journey is the destination, or some other philosophical nonsense that you don't actually believe, but can convincingly pretend to believe. You practice your voice. Monks speak softly. They don't raise their voices. They don't argue. They don't get defensive when someone questions them. They just smile and nod and say something vaguely wise-sounding that doesn't actually mean anything. You're very good at saying things that don't mean anything. By midday, you're ready. You leave the inn without saying goodbye to anyone. You didn't make friends. You didn't have conversations. You were just another guest. Forgettable. The road out of town is busy. Merchants heading south. Farmers bringing vegetables to market. A few other travellers whose business you don't know and don't care about. You fall into step with the general flow of traffic. No one looks at you twice. The first day of travel is uneventful. You walk. You stop to rest when other people stop to rest. You drink water from the streams that run alongside the road. You eat the rice balls you packed this morning. You don't talk to anyone unless they talk to you first. A few people do. An old woman asks if you're travelling to the temple in the mountains. You say yes. She tells you to be careful because the road gets steep and the weather has been unpredictable. You thank her for the advice. A merchant asks if you've heard any news from the south. You say no. He seems disappointed but doesn't press. A farmer offers you a persimmon. You accept it and thank him. You eat it slowly, savouring the sweetness. It's a good persimmon. You wonder if you'll remember this moment later, or if it will disappear into the general blur of travel days that all look the same. Probably the latter. By evening, you reach a small village. There's an inn. You go inside. The innkeeper looks at your monk's robe and offers you a reduced rate. You accept. You're given a small room in the back. It's clean. There's a thin mattress on the floor. A single window that looks out onto the back garden. You eat dinner with the other guests. Rice. Miso soup. Pickled vegetables. The food is plain but filling. The other guests talk about the usual things. The weather. The roads. The taxes. Someone mentions that there are more soldiers on the roads lately. Someone else says they heard there was a skirmish between two rival clans near the border. You listen. You don't contribute. Monks are expected to be above worldly concerns like clan politics and military conflicts. You just nod occasionally and focus on your food. After dinner, you go back to your room. You lie down on the mattress and stare at the ceiling. You think about the message you're carrying. The plum blossoms bloomed early this year. You wonder what it means. You wonder if it's code for something specific, or if it's just a signal that means proceed or abort, or something else entirely. You'll never know. And that's fine. You fall asleep to the sound of rain starting to fall outside. The second day is harder. The rain continues through the morning. Not a heavy rain. Just a steady drizzle that soaks through your robe and makes the road slippery. You keep walking. The other travellers thin out. Most people don't like travelling in the rain. They stop at inns or take shelter under trees and wait for it to pass. You don't have that luxury. You have a schedule. Not a strict one, but strict enough. Your contact is expecting you to arrive within a certain window of time. If you're too early, they might not be ready. If you're too late, They might assume you're not coming. So you walk in the rain. Your sandals squelch in the mud. Your robe clings to your skin. Water drips from your hair into your eyes. You're cold, you're wet, you're miserable. This is the job. By midday, you reach a checkpoint. You knew it was coming. Your contact warned you. But knowing about it doesn't make it less annoying. There are 2 guards. They're standing under a makeshift shelter, trying to stay dry. They look bored. They look like they'd rather be anywhere else. That's good. Bored guards are less thorough. You approach slowly. You keep your head down. You keep your hands visible. One of the guards steps forward. He asks where you're going. You tell him. The temple in the mountains. You're traveling to deliver some texts. He asks to see the texts. You pull them out of your bag. They're real texts. Buddhist sutras. Nothing suspicious. Nothing coded. Just religious writings that you don't understand and don't care about. He flips through them without really looking. He's not interested. He's just going through the motions. He asks if you've seen anything unusual on the road. You say no. He nods. He waves you through. You bow. You thank him. You keep walking. Your heart rate doesn't change. Your breathing stays steady. You've done this enough times that it doesn't scare you anymore. It's just part of the routine. You walk for another hour before you allow yourself to relax. The rain stops by late afternoon. The clouds break apart and the sun comes out, weak and watery but present. Steam rises from the wet road. The air smells like earth and wet leaves. You find a place to rest. A small shrine by the side of the road. There's a stone bench. You sit down and eat some dried fish and rice. A few other travellers pass by. They nod at you. You nod back. No one stops to talk. You're grateful for that. By evening, you reach another village. This one is smaller than the last. There's no inn. Just a few houses clustered around a well. You ask if there's a place to stay. An old man points you toward a house at the edge of the village. He says the family there sometimes takes in travellers. You go to the house. You knock. A woman answers. She looks at your monk's robe. She invites you in without asking any questions. You're given a space in the corner of the main room. There's no separate guest room. You'll be sleeping with the family. That's fine, you've done this before. The family eats dinner. Rice. Vegetable soup. They offer you some. You accept. They don't ask where you're going. They don't ask where you're from. They just eat in silence, and you eat with them. After dinner, the woman asks if you'd like to lead them in prayer. You hesitate. You're not actually a monk. You don't know the proper prayers, but you know enough to fake it. You recite a simple sutra, one you've memorized for situations like this. Your pronunciation is probably wrong. Your rhythm is probably off. But the family doesn't seem to notice. They bow their heads and listen. When you're finished, they thank you. You bow. You lie down in your corner and close your eyes. You can hear the family moving around. Quiet conversations. The sound of someone sweeping the floor. A child asking a question and being shushed. Normal sounds. Ordinary sounds. You fall asleep. The third day is when you leave the main road. You wake before dawn. The family is still asleep. You gather your things quietly and slip out of the house. The sky is just starting to lighten. The air is cold and damp. You walk through the village and out the other side. You follow the main road for another hour until you reach a place where a smaller path branches off into the forest. This is the route you were told to take, the hidden route. The path is narrow, barely wide enough for one person. It's overgrown with ferns and low-hanging branches. You have to duck to avoid hitting your head. This is not a path that most people know about. It's not on any map. It's not maintained by any local authority. It's just a trail that's been used by hunters and foragers, and people like you who need to move through the mountains without being seen. You've travelled paths like this before. You know what to expect. The terrain gets steeper. The path winds upward through the forest. Your legs start to burn. Your breathing gets heavier. You don't stop. The forest is quiet. No birds. No insects. Just the sound of your footsteps on the dirt and the occasional rustle of leaves when the wind picks up. You're alone. This is the part of the job that most people wouldn't be able to handle. The isolation. The silence. The knowledge that if something goes wrong, if you twist your ankle or get lost or run into bandits, no one will know. No one will come looking for you. You'll just disappear. But you're used to it. You've learned to be comfortable with the possibility of disappearing. By midday, you reach a stream. It's narrow but fast moving. The water is clear and cold. You stop to drink. You refill your water container. You eat some rice and dried plums. You sit on a rock and listen to the sound of the water. It's peaceful. You allow yourself to enjoy it for a few minutes. Then you keep walking. The path continues upward. The trees thin out. You can see the mountains rising ahead of you, their peaks still covered in snow, even though it's late spring. You're getting close. By late afternoon, you reach a ridge. From here, you can see the valley below. There's a village. Small. Maybe 30 houses. Smoke rising from cooking fires. That's your destination. You start the descent. The path down is steeper than the path up. You have to move carefully. One wrong step, and you could slide down the slope and break something important. You take your time. By the time you reach the valley floor, the sun is setting. You walk into the village. It's quiet. A few people are outside, finishing their evening chores. They glance at you but don't say anything. You're just another traveller, just another monk passing through. You find the shrine. It's exactly where your contact said it would be. Northern edge of the village. Stone lantern out front with a crack running down the left side. You approach slowly. There's a man sweeping the steps. He's older. Maybe 50. He's wearing simple clothes. Nothing that marks him as anyone important. You wait until he notices you. He looks up. He doesn't smile. He doesn't frown. He just looks at you. You bow. You say the words you were told to say. The plum blossoms bloomed early this year. He nods. He sets down his broom. He gestures for you to follow him. You do. He leads you around the back of the shrine to a small building. A storage room, maybe. Or a place where he lives. You're not sure. He opens the door. He invites you inside. The room is small. There's a low table. A few cushions. A shelf with some books and scrolls. He gestures for you to sit. You sit. He pours tea. He doesn't say anything. He just pours the tea and hands you a cup. You drink. The tea is bitter. You don't complain. After a few minutes, he speaks. He asks if you had any trouble on the road. You say no. He nods. He asks if anyone followed you. You say no. He nods again. He reaches into his robe and pulls out a small piece of paper. Folded. Sealed with wax. He hands it to you. This is your return message. You're to deliver it to a contact in a town 2 days south of here. Different town. Different contact. Same routine. You take the paper. You tuck it into your robe. He tells you to leave before dawn. The roads will be watched tomorrow. There's some kind of inspection happening. Local officials looking for smugglers or bandits or something. You thank him for the warning. He nods. He offers you a place to sleep. There's a small room in the back of the shrine. It's not much, but it's dry and safe. You accept. He shows you to the room. There's a thin mattress on the floor. A blanket. A small window. You lie down. You can hear the man moving around in the other room. The sound of him preparing his own dinner. The sound of him settling in for the night. You close your eyes. You think about the message you just delivered. The plum blossoms bloomed early this year. You think about the message you're now carrying. You don't know what either of them means. You don't need to know. You fall asleep. You wake before dawn, as instructed. The man is already awake. He's prepared some rice for you. You eat quickly. He walks you to the edge of the village. He points you toward a different path. Not the one you came in on. This one leads south, through a different part of the mountains. He tells you it's safer. Fewer checkpoints. You thank him. He nods. You start walking. The path is similar to the one you took yesterday. Narrow, overgrown, steep in places. You move carefully. The sun rises as you climb. The light filters through the trees, casting long shadows across the path. You're alone again. This is the part of the job that you've come to appreciate. The solitude. The silence. The feeling of moving through the world without leaving a trace. You're a ghost. You walk for hours. The path eventually levels out. You're on a ridge now, following the spine of the mountain. To your left, the ground drops away steeply. To your right, the forest continues upward. You can see for miles from here. The valleys below, the rivers winding through them. The villages scattered across the landscape like seeds. It's beautiful. You don't stop to admire it. You keep walking. By midday, you hear voices. You freeze. The voices are coming from ahead, around a bend in the path. You move off the trail. You crouch behind a large boulder. You wait. The voices get closer. 2 men. Maybe 3. They're talking loudly, complaining about something. The heat. The terrain. The fact that they've been walking all morning and haven't found anything. Soldiers. You stay very still. They come around the bend. 3 of them. They're wearing armor. They're carrying spears. They look tired and annoyed. They're not looking for you specifically. They're just patrolling. Checking the mountain paths for smugglers or bandits or anyone who's not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here. You hold your breath. They walk past your hiding spot. They don't look in your direction. They're too busy complaining to each other. You wait until their voices fade. You wait another 10 minutes. Then you stand up. You brush the dirt off your robe. You step back onto the path. You keep walking. Your heart rate is elevated now. Not much. Just enough to remind you that this job is not entirely safe. But you're fine. You didn't panic. You didn't make noise. You didn't do anything that would have drawn their attention. You were invisible. By late afternoon, you reach another village. This one is larger. There's an inn. You go inside. You're no longer dressed as a monk. You changed clothes an hour ago, when you stopped to rest by a stream. Now you're wearing the clothes of a labourer. Simple pants, a worn jacket, a straw hat. You're no longer a travelling monk. You're a worker looking for employment. Maybe in the fields, maybe at a mill. Doesn't matter. You're just passing through. The innkeeper doesn't ask questions. You pay for a room. You're given a space upstairs. You eat dinner with the other guests. Rice, fish, pickled vegetables. The other guests talk about work, about wages, about which landowners are hiring and which ones aren't. You listen. You don't contribute. After dinner, you go to your room. You take out the message you're carrying, the folded paper sealed with wax. You don't open it. You're not supposed to open it. But you hold it for a moment, feeling the weight of it. Someone's plans are written on this paper. Someone's strategy. Someone's secrets. And you're the one carrying it. You tuck it back into your jacket. You lie down. You fall asleep. The fourth day is uneventful. You walk. You follow the main road south. You stay with the other travelers. No one bothers you. You reach the town by evening. You find the contact. A woman who runs a small shop selling fabric. You give her the message. She takes it without saying anything. She nods. You leave. That's it. The assignment is complete. You walk to the edge of town. You find a place to sleep. A small temple that allows travelers to stay in the courtyard. You lie down on the ground. You use your bag as a pillow. You stare up at the stars. You think about the fact that you just walked for 4 days to deliver a piece of paper that you never read and will never understand. You think about the fact that you'll do it again. Probably next week. Maybe tomorrow. You close your eyes. You sleep. The next few days are spent waiting. You stay in the town. You find a cheap inn. You pay for a room by the week. You don't do much. You walk around the town. You sit in tea houses. You watch people. You're waiting for the next assignment. This is the part of the job that no one talks about. The waiting. The long stretches of time between assignments when you're just existing. Just taking up space. Just trying not to be noticed. You've gotten good at waiting. You've learned how to fill the hours without drawing attention to yourself. You read. You sleep. You take long walks. You sit in public places and watch the world go by. You've learned how to be alone without being lonely. Or maybe you've just learned how to ignore the loneliness. Hard to say. After 5 days, your contact finds you. You're sitting in a tea house when they sit down across from you. Different person than last time. You've never seen them before. They don't introduce themselves. They just tell you where to go next. Another town. 3 days west. You're to deliver a message to a man who works at a sake brewery. The message is memorized. 4 sentences this time. You repeat the sentences back to them to confirm you've got them right. They nod. They stand up. They leave. You finish your tea. You go back to your room. You pack your things. You leave the next morning. The routine begins again. You've been doing this for 6 years. 6 years of walking. 6 years of waiting. 6 years of carrying other people's secrets through mountains and across rivers and into places where the wrong word to the wrong person could get you killed. You're still alive. That's something. You're not sure if it's enough, but it's something. You think about the other messengers you've heard about, the ones who didn't make it, the ones who got caught at checkpoints or betrayed by contacts or just disappeared into the mountains and were never seen again. You think about the fact that you could be next. You think about the fact that you probably won't be because you're careful and you're good at this and you've learned how to be invisible. But you could be. You walk. The road stretches out ahead of you. The mountains rise in the distance. The sky is clear. You're alone. You're always alone. But that's fine. That's the job. You're a shinobi messenger, not a warrior, not an assassin, not anyone important, just a person who walks from one place to another, carrying information that you don't understand for people you'll never meet. You're very good at not being remembered. And that's enough. You keep walking. The seasons change. Summer turns to autumn. The leaves turn red and gold. The air gets colder. You keep taking assignments, some are short. A day's walk. A simple message. An easy exchange. Some are longer. A week or more. Multiple contacts. Complex routes. You handle them all the same way. Carefully. Quietly. Without drawing attention. You've developed a reputation, though you'll never hear about it directly. The people who hire you know that you're reliable, that you don't ask questions, that you don't fail. That's worth something in this line of work. Reliability is rarer than skill. You've also developed a routine. You know which inns are safe, which villages are friendly to travelers, which roads have checkpoints and which ones don't. You know the mountain paths, the hidden routes, the places where you can disappear if you need to. You know how to read people, how to tell if someone is watching you, how to tell if a situation is about to go bad. You know when to run and when to stay calm. You've learned all of this through experience, through trial and error, through the accumulated knowledge of 6 years of not getting caught. No one taught you this. There was no manual, no guidebook. You just learned by not dying. And now you're good at it. Good enough that you don't think about it anymore. It's just what you do. It's just who you are. You're a messenger. You walk. You deliver. You disappear. You do it again. There are moments, though, rare moments, when you wonder what it would be like to stop, to settle down in a village somewhere, to take up a normal trade, to be a farmer, or a craftsman, or a shopkeeper, to have a life that doesn't involve constantly looking over your shoulder. But those moments pass quickly, because you know you can't stop. Not really. You know too much. You've seen too much. You've been involved in too many things that powerful people would prefer to keep secret. If you stopped, you'd become a liability. And liabilities don't last long. So you keep walking. You keep taking assignments. You keep being invisible. It's not a bad life, all things considered. You're not rich. You're not comfortable. You're not safe. But you're free, in a way. Free to move. Free to disappear. Free to exist outside the normal structures of society. You don't have a lord. You don't have a master. You don't have obligations beyond the immediate assignment. You're not tied to any one place or any one person. You're just you. A ghost moving through the world. Carrying secrets. Delivering messages. Walking. Always walking. The winter comes. The mountains are covered in snow. The roads are harder to travel. The villages are quieter. You keep working. Winter assignments are different. Slower. More dangerous. The cold is a problem. The snow is a problem. The shorter days are a problem. But you manage. You've learned how to dress for the cold. How to keep your feet dry. How to find shelter when you need it. You've learned which paths are passable in winter and which ones aren't. You've learned how to read the weather, how to tell when a storm is coming, how to find a safe place to wait it out. You've learned how to survive. One winter assignment takes you high into the mountains, higher than you've ever been. The path is narrow and icy. The wind is brutal. The temperature is well below freezing. You're carrying a message to a contact in a remote village. A village that's only accessible in winter because the summer routes are too heavily watched. You walk for 3 days. Your fingers go numb. Your face hurts from the cold. Your breath freezes in the air. You keep walking. On the third day, you reach the village. It's tiny, maybe 10 houses, buried in snow. You find the contact. You deliver the message. They give you a place to stay for the night. A small room with a fire. You thaw out slowly. The next morning, you start the journey back. The return trip is harder. The weather has worsened. The wind is stronger. The snow is deeper. You almost don't make it. There's a moment, halfway down the mountain, when you slip on the ice and nearly fall off the path. You catch yourself at the last second. Your heart is pounding. Your hands are shaking. You sit down in the snow for a minute. You breathe. You think about the fact that you almost died just now. You think about the fact that no one would have known. You would have just disappeared. Another messenger who didn't come back. You stand up. You keep walking. You make it back. You survive. You always survive. That's the job. Spring comes again. The snow melts. The roads open up. The villages come back to life. You keep working. You've been doing this for 6 years now. 6 years of walking. 6 years of carrying secrets. 6 years of being no one in particular. You're starting to forget what it was like before. Before you were a messenger. Before you learned how to be invisible. Before you spent your days walking through mountains and your nights sleeping in strange rooms. You're starting to forget who you were. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe it's easier this way. You take another assignment. This one is routine. A message to be delivered to a town 2 days south. You've been to this town before. You know the route. You know the contact. You walk. The weather is good. The road is clear. You make good time. You reach the town by evening of the second day. You find the contact. You deliver the message. They thank you. You nod. You turn to leave. And then they say something unexpected. They say, "You've been doing this for a while now." You stop. You turn back. They're looking at you. Really looking at you. Not just seeing the role you're playing, but seeing you. You don't say anything. They continue. You're good at it. Better than most. You still don't say anything. They smile. It's a sad smile. Just be careful. This work. It has a way of consuming people. You nod. You leave. You walk back to your inn. You lie down on the thin mattress. You think about what they said. This work has a way of consuming people. You think about the fact that you can't remember the last time someone called you by your real name. You think about the fact that you're not sure you'd respond if they did. You think about the fact that you've become the role you play. You're not pretending to be invisible anymore. You are invisible. You close your eyes. You sleep. The next morning, you wake up. You pack your things. You leave the inn. You walk to the edge of town. You wait. Eventually, someone will find you. Someone will give you another assignment. And you'll walk again. You'll deliver another message. You'll disappear into another crowd. You'll be no one in particular. That's the job. That's your life. And it's fine. It's not what you imagined when you were young. It's not what you dreamed about. But it's what you have. And it's enough. You're a shinobi messenger. You walk through mountains and across rivers and into places where the wrong word could get you killed. You carry other people's secrets. You deliver their messages. You disappear. And then you do it again. You've been doing this for 6 years. You'll probably do it for 6 more. Or until you don't come back from an assignment. Whichever comes first. You're at peace with that. You've learned to be at peace with a lot of things. The uncertainty, the danger, the loneliness. The fact that you're just a small part of something much larger that you'll never fully understand. The fact that your work matters, but you'll never know how or why. The fact that you're good at something that no one will ever celebrate. You've learned to find satisfaction in the small things, the feeling of reaching your destination safely, the moment when you deliver a message and see the relief in the contact's eyes, the quiet satisfaction of knowing that you did your job well and no one noticed, the peace of walking alone through the mountains with nothing but the sound of your own footsteps and the wind in the trees. These are the things that keep you going. Not glory, not recognition, not wealth, just the quiet satisfaction of doing the work, of being good at something difficult, of surviving another day. You stand at the edge of town. You wait. The sun is rising. The sky is clear. The air is cool. It's going to be a good day for walking. You're ready. You're always ready. That's who you are now. A messenger. A ghost. A person who exists in the spaces between places. Carrying secrets. Delivering messages. Walking. Always walking. And that's fine. That's enough. You take a breath. You start walking. The road stretches out ahead of you. The mountains rise in the distance. You're alone. You're always alone. But that's the job, and you're very good at it. You keep walking, one foot in front of the other, mile after mile, day after day, year after year. This is your life. This is what you do. You're a shinobi messenger, and you're very good at not being remembered. But right now, you're not walking anywhere. Right now, you're waiting. This is the other half of the job. The half that no one thinks about when they imagine what a shinobi does. You're sitting in a tea house, in a town whose name you'll forget by next week. You've been here for 4 days. You've done nothing. You've spoken to almost no one. You've eaten rice and pickled vegetables and drunk wheat tea and watched the world continue without you. This is normal. The waiting is always longer than the walking. You've developed routines for this. Small rituals that help the days pass without drawing attention. Every morning you wake before dawn. You fold your sleeping mat. You wash your face in cold water. You dress in whatever clothes match your current identity. Today it's a traveling craftsman, someone who repairs tools, someone unremarkable. You eat breakfast at the inn. Rice. Miso soup. Sometimes a piece of fish if you're lucky. You don't talk to the other guests unless they talk to you first. After breakfast, you walk. Not to anywhere specific. Just walk. Through the town. Along the river. Past the market. You're not looking for anything. You're just moving. Staying loose. Keeping your body ready for when the next assignment comes. You've learned that sitting still for too long makes you slow, makes you soft. And you can't afford to be soft. Around midday, you find a place to sit. Sometimes it's a tea house. Sometimes it's a temple courtyard. Sometimes it's just a spot by the river where you can watch the water move. You sit for hours. You watch people. You listen to conversations. You learn the rhythm of the town. You learn which merchants are doing well and which ones aren't. You learn which officials are corrupt and which ones are just incompetent. You learn which families are feuding and which ones are forming alliances. You don't need this information. It's not part of any assignment, but you collect it anyway. Because information is currency in your world, and you never know when a random piece of knowledge might save your life. In the afternoon, you walk again. Different route. Different part of town. You stop at a shrine. You leave a small offering. A few coins. Some rice. You're not religious. Not really. But the rituals are comforting. And shrines are good places to be alone without looking suspicious. By evening, you're back at the inn. You eat dinner. You go to your room. You lie down and stare at the ceiling. You think about nothing in particular. You fall asleep. You do this again the next day, and the day after that. This is what waiting looks like. It's not dramatic. It's not interesting. It's just time passing while you exist in a state of readiness that never quite relaxes. You've been doing this for 6 years, and you still haven't figured out how to make the waiting easier. Some messengers drink. You've met them. They spend their waiting days in steakhouses, getting quietly drunk, trying to blur the edges of the boredom. You don't drink. Not much, anyway. You need to stay sharp. You need to be ready to move at any moment. Some messengers gamble. They play dice games or card games with other travelers, trying to fill the hours with something that feels like risk, without actually being dangerous. You don't gamble either. You can't afford to draw that kind of attention. Can't afford to win too much, or lose too much, or get into an argument over a bad hand. So you just wait. You've gotten very good at it. On the 5th day, your contact finds you. You're sitting by the river, watching a fisherman work his nets, when someone sits down next to you. You don't look at them. You just keep watching the fisherman. They speak quietly, barely above a whisper. There's a package that needs to go to Mikawa province, 4 days east, maybe 5 if you take the mountain route. You nod slightly. The contact is a woman who runs a dye shop in the town of Okazaki. She'll be wearing an indigo headscarf. You'll know her by the scar on her left hand. You commit this to memory. Indigo headscarf. Scar on left hand. Okazaki. The message is written. It's sealed. Don't open it. They hand you a small package. It's wrapped in oiled paper, about the size of your palm. Light. You tuck it into your jacket without looking at it. There are checkpoints on the main road, more than usual. Some lord is moving troops and he's nervous about spies. You nod again. Take the mountain route. It's longer but safer. They stand up. They walk away. You sit for another 10 minutes. You watch the fisherman pull in his nets. The catch is small. A few fish. Not enough to make the effort worthwhile. You stand up. You walk back to the inn. You pack your things. You change clothes. You're no longer a craftsman. Now you're a pilgrim. You have prayer beads. A worn travelling cloak. A staff that's seen better days. You leave the inn without saying goodbye. The road east is familiar. You've travelled it before. Different assignment. Different season. But the same road. You know where the villages are. You know where the water is. You know which parts of the road flood when it rains and which parts are safe. You walk. The first day is easy. The weather is good. The road is dry. You make good time. You pass other travellers. Merchants. Farmers. A group of monks heading west. You nod at them. They nod back. No one speaks. By evening, you reach a village. There's an inn. You go inside. The innkeeper looks at your pilgrim's clothes and offers you a reduced rate. You accept. You're given a small room. You eat dinner with the other guests. Rice, soup, pickled radish. The other guests talk about the usual things. The weather, the crops, the taxes. Someone mentions the checkpoints, says they're looking for someone. A spy, maybe, or a criminal. No one knows for sure. You listen. You don't contribute. After dinner, you go to your room. You take out the package. You hold it for a moment. You're tempted to open it. You always are. You want to know what you're carrying. What's so important that someone is willing to pay you to walk 4 days through the mountains to deliver it? But you don't open it. You never do. You tuck it back into your jacket. You lie down. You sleep. The second day is when you leave the main road. You wake before dawn. You leave the inn while everyone else is still asleep. You walk east for an hour, following the main road. Then you turn north, onto a smaller path that leads into the mountains. This is the route your contact told you to take. The safe route. The path is narrow, overgrown. You have to push through low-hanging branches and step over fallen logs. The terrain gets steeper. Your legs start to burn. Your breathing gets heavier. You don't stop. This is the part of the job that most people couldn't handle. The physical part. The endless walking. The constant strain on your body. You're 32 years old. You've been doing this for 6 years. Your body is starting to show the wear. Your knees ache in the morning. Your feet have calluses on top of calluses. Your back hurts when you carry a heavy pack. You've started to notice these things more lately. You've started to wonder how much longer you can do this. Most messengers don't last more than 10 years. The work is too hard. The body breaks down. The mind breaks down. You've seen it happen. You've met old messengers. 40 years old and they look 60. Limping. Scarred. Broken. Some of them retire. Find a village somewhere. Take up a quiet trade. Try to forget what they used to do. Some of them don't retire. They just disappear. One day, they don't come back from an assignment. And no one knows if they died or got caught or just decided to walk away and never look back. You try not to think about it. You just keep walking. By midday, you're deep in the mountains. The path has narrowed to barely a trail. You're following a stream now, wading through the water when the banks get too steep. The water is cold. It soaks through your sandals. Your feet go numb. You keep walking. You've learned to ignore discomfort. It's just information. Your body telling you that something hurts. You acknowledge it. You file it away. You keep moving. Pain is just pain. It doesn't mean you have to stop. By late afternoon, you reach a small shrine. It's old, half collapsed. The roof is caving in. The stone lantern out front is covered in moss. But there's a dry spot inside. A place to rest. You stop. You sit down. You eat some rice and dried fish. You take off your sandals. You examine your feet. There's a blister forming on your left heel. You pop it with a needle. You wrap it with a strip of cloth. This is routine maintenance. Like sharpening a blade or oiling leather. Your body is a tool. You have to take care of it. You rest for an hour. Then you keep walking. The path continues upward. The trees thin out. You can see the peaks above you, still covered in snow even though it's late spring. You're getting close to the pass, the highest point of the journey. After that, it's downhill into Mikawa province. You reach the pass just before sunset. The view is spectacular. You can see for miles. The valleys below. The rivers winding through them. The villages scattered across the landscape like seeds. You don't stop to admire it. You've seen it before. You start the descent. The path down is steeper than the path up. You have to move carefully. One wrong step and you could slide down the slope and break something important. You take your time. By the time you reach the valley floor, it's dark. You find a place to sleep. A small cave. Dry. Protected from the wind. You build a small fire. You eat the last of your rice. You drink water from your container. You lie down. You stare at the fire. You think about the fact that you're alone in the mountains. That if something happened to you right now, if you got sick or injured or attacked by a wild animal, no one would know. No one would come looking for you. You'd just disappear. This thought doesn't scare you anymore. It used to. In the beginning. But now, it's just a fact. Part of the job. You close your eyes. You sleep. The third day is when things get complicated. You wake at dawn. You put out the fire. You pack your things. You start walking. The path leads through a forest. Dense. Dark. The canopy blocks out most of the sunlight. You're about 2 hours into the walk when you hear voices. You stop. You listen. The voices are coming from ahead, around a bend in the path. You move off the trail. You crouch behind a large tree. You wait. The voices get closer. 3 men. Maybe 4. They're talking loudly. Complaining about something. Bandits. You can tell by the way they're moving. By the way they're talking. They're not travelers. They're not merchants. They're men who make their living by taking things from other people. You stay very still. They come around the bend. 4 of them. They're armed. Swords. Spears. They look tired and hungry and mean. They're not looking for you specifically. They're just patrolling. Checking the path for travelers they can rob. You hold your breath. They walk past your hiding spot. They don't look in your direction. They're too busy arguing about something. About how long they've been out here. About how they haven't found anyone worth robbing in days. You wait until their voices fade. You wait another 20 minutes. Then you stand up. You brush the dirt off your clothes. You step back onto the path. You keep walking. Your heart rate is elevated. Not much. Just enough to remind you that this job is not safe. That there are people out here who would kill you for the few coins in your pocket, let alone the package you're carrying. But you're fine. You didn't panic. You didn't make noise. You didn't do anything that would have drawn their attention. You were invisible. By midday, you reach the edge of the forest. The path opens up into farmland. Rice paddies. Small villages. You're in Mikawa province now. You change your appearance. You take off the pilgrim's cloak. You put on a different jacket. You adjust your hair. You're no longer a pilgrim. Now you're a traveling merchant. Someone who sells small goods. Needles. Thread. Buttons. You have a bag with these items. They're real. You can actually sell them if you need to. But mostly they're just props. Part of the disguise. You walk through the farmland. You pass farmers working in the fields. They glance at you. You nod. They nod back. No one stops you. No one asks questions. By evening, you reach Okazaki. It's a decent-sized town. Bigger than most of the places you've been lately. There's a market. Several inns. A few temples. You find the dye shop. It's on the eastern side of town. Small. Unassuming. You go inside. The shop smells like indigo and other dyes. There are bolts of fabric stacked on shelves. Jars of pigment. Tools for dyeing. A woman is working in the back. She's stirring a large vat of indigo dye. She's wearing a headscarf. Indigo. You approach slowly. She looks up. She sees you. Her eyes flick to your face, then away. You can see her left hand. There's a scar. A long, thin line running from her wrist to her knuckles. This is the contact. You reach into your jacket, you pull out the package, you hand it to her without saying anything. She takes it, she tucks it into her apron. She doesn't open it. She doesn't thank you. She just nods. Then she reaches under the counter. She pulls out a small pouch. She hands it to you. You take it. You can feel coins inside. Your payment. You bow slightly. You turn to leave. She speaks. Her voice is quiet. Be careful on the road back. There are more soldiers than usual. They're looking for someone. You nod. You leave. You walk out of the shop. You walk through the town. You find an inn. You pay for a room. You eat dinner. You go upstairs. You sit on the floor. You open the pouch. You count the coins. It's the usual amount. Not much. Enough to live on for a few weeks if you're careful. You tuck the coins into your jacket. You lie down. You think about the woman's warning. More soldiers. Looking for someone. You wonder if they're looking for you. If someone figured out what you do. If someone betrayed you. Or maybe they're looking for someone else. Maybe it has nothing to do with you. You'll never know. You close your eyes. You sleep. The next morning, you leave Okazaki. You take a different route back. Not the mountain path. A different path. One that loops south before heading west. It's longer. But safer. You walk for 5 days. Nothing happens. You pass through villages. You sleep in inns. You eat rice and vegetables. You talk to no one. You're just another traveller. Just another face in the crowd. By the time you reach the town where you started, you've almost forgotten what you were carrying. Almost forgotten why you walked all that way. Almost. You find your usual inn. You pay for a room. You settle in. You wait. This is the rhythm of your life. Walk, deliver. Wait. Repeat. You've been doing this for 6 years. You'll probably do it for a few more. Or until you can't anymore. Whichever comes first. Let's talk about what this work actually is. The historical reality of it. Because there's a lot of mythology around shinobi, and most of it is nonsense. The word ninja doesn't even exist in the 1500s. That's a later invention. A 20th century term that gets applied retroactively to a bunch of different groups who did a bunch of different things. What you are is a shinobi. Specifically, a shinobi messenger working during the Sengoku period, the Warring States period. 1500s Japan. A time when the country is fractured into dozens of competing domains, each controlled by a different warlord, each trying to expand their territory or defend what they have. This is not a unified country. There's an emperor technically, but he has no power. There's a shogun technically, but his authority is a joke. Real power belongs to the daimyo, the regional lords. And they're all fighting each other. This creates a problem. A logistical problem. How do you communicate with your allies when your enemies control the roads between you? How do you coordinate troop movements when any message you send might be intercepted? How do you gather intelligence about your rivals when they're doing everything they can to keep their plans secret? You need messengers. Specifically, you need messengers who can move through enemy territory without being noticed, who can carry information without being caught, who can be trusted to deliver messages accurately and discreetly. You need people like you. The system you're part of is not unique to shinobi. There are official courier systems too. The Tujibasiya system. Relay stations positioned along the main roads where messengers can change horses and rest. It's efficient. It's fast. It's also completely public. Every message that goes through the Tujibasiya system can be seen, can be intercepted, can be read by anyone with enough authority or enough money to bribe the right person. So for sensitive communications, the daimyo use people like you, unofficial couriers, people who travel the hidden routes, who don't use the relay stations, who don't leave records. You're part of a shadow network, a parallel system that exists alongside the official one, but operates completely separately. You don't know how many other messengers there are. You've met a few. You've heard rumors about others. But you don't know the full scope of the network. That's intentional. The less you know, the less you can reveal if you're captured. The work is not glamorous. Let's be very clear about that. You're not a warrior. You're not trained in combat. You don't carry weapons beyond a small knife for practical purposes. If you get into a fight, you've already failed. Your job is to not get into fights, to not be noticed, to not be remembered. You're a courier. That's it. You carry information from point A to point B. You do it quietly. You do it reliably. That's the entire job. And yet it's essential. Because information is power. Knowing where your enemy's troops are positioned. Knowing which of your rival's allies might be persuaded to switch sides. Knowing when a castle is vulnerable or when a supply line is exposed. This information can change the outcome of battles, can determine which daimyo rises and which one falls. And you're the one carrying it. You're a small part of a very large machine. A machine that's grinding through the Sengoku period, slowly consolidating power, slowly moving toward the eventual unification of Japan under the Tokugawa shogunate. But that's decades away. Right now, it's just chaos. Just warlords, fighting warlords. Just messengers like you walking through mountains and hoping you don't get caught. You've been back in the waiting town for 3 weeks now. 3 weeks of the same routine. Wake up. Walk. Sit. Watch. Sleep. Repeat. You're starting to get restless. Not bored exactly. You're too disciplined for boredom. But restless. Like your body knows it's supposed to be moving and it's frustrated by the stillness. You've started walking longer distances. Not to anywhere specific. Just walking. Out of town. Along the river. Through the surrounding farmland. You tell yourself it's to stay in shape. To keep your legs strong. To maintain your endurance. But really, it's because you don't know what else to do with yourself. This is the part of the job that no one prepares you for. The psychological part. The way the waiting eats at you. The way the isolation becomes normal, and then becomes unbearable, and then becomes normal again. You've been doing this for 6 years. 6 years of being no one. 6 years of having no real relationships. No friends. No family that you see regularly. No connections that last longer than a single conversation. You've learnt to be alone. You've learned to be comfortable with it. But comfortable is not the same as happy. You think about this sometimes. Late at night. When you're lying in whatever room you're renting and staring at the ceiling. You think about what your life would be like if you'd made different choices. If you'd stayed in your village. If you'd become a farmer like your father. If you'd married someone and had children and lived a normal, ordinary life. You think about what it would be like to have a name that people knew. To have a face that people recognized. To have a place that you belonged to. But then you remember why you left. You remember the poverty. The backbreaking work. The certainty that your life would be exactly like your father's life, which was exactly like his father's life. You remember the feeling of being trapped, of knowing that nothing would ever change. that you would live and die in the same small village, and no one outside that village would ever know you existed. At least now, you're moving. At least now, you're part of something larger, even if you don't fully understand what that something is. At least now, you have a skill, something you're good at, something that makes you valuable. Even if no one will ever acknowledge it, you're sitting by the river when you see her. She's washing clothes, kneeling by the water's edge, scrubbing fabric against a rock. You've seen her before. She lives in town, works at one of the inns, not the one you're staying at, a different one. You've noticed her because she's one of the few people in town who doesn't look at you with suspicion or indifference. She looks at you with something else. Curiosity, maybe, or recognition, like she knows you're not what you pretend to be. Today, she looks up and sees you watching. She doesn't look away. She just holds your gaze for a moment. Then she smiles. Small, brief. You nod. You look away. You should leave. You should stand up and walk away, and never think about this again. But you don't. You stay sitting. You watch the river. You're aware of her presence, aware that she's still there, still washing clothes, still occasionally glancing in your direction. After a while, she speaks. You've been in town for a while. Her voice is quiet, not accusatory, just observational. You nod. Passing through. You've been passing through for 3 weeks. You don't respond. She continues washing clothes. The sound of fabric against rock. The sound of water moving. You're not a merchant, she says. You don't sell anything. You're not a pilgrim. You don't pray. You're not a laborer. You don't work. You still don't respond. So what are you? You could lie. You could give her one of your prepared stories. You could be anyone. But you're tired. Tired of lying. Tired of being no one. So you tell her the truth. Sort of. I'm waiting. For what? For someone to tell me where to go next. She stops washing. She looks at you. Really looks at you. That sounds lonely. You don't say anything. She goes back to washing clothes. You sit in silence for a while. It's not uncomfortable. It's just silence. Eventually, she finishes. She gathers the wet clothes into a basket. She stands up. She looks at you one more time. There's a festival tomorrow night, at the shrine. You should come. You shake your head. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because you can't afford to be remembered. Because you can't afford to form connections. Because you can't afford to be anything other than invisible. But you don't say any of that. You just say, I might not be here tomorrow. She nods, like she understands, like she knows exactly what you mean. Well, if you are. She walks away. You watch her go. You think about the festival. You think about what it would be like to go, to be part of something, to exist in a space where people see you and acknowledge you and maybe even enjoy your company. You think about what it would be like to talk to her again, to learn her name, to tell her yours. But you won't go. You can't. That's not who you are anymore. You're a ghost. And ghosts don't go to festivals. The next day, your contact finds you. You're in your room at the inn when there's a knock on the door. You open it. There's a man standing there. You've never seen him before. He doesn't introduce himself. He just hands you a small piece of paper. You take it. You read it. It's an address, a town name, a description of a contact. You memorize it. You hand the paper back. He takes it. He leaves. You pack your things. You're leaving tonight, before the festival, before you have to make the choice not to go. You change clothes. You become someone else. A farmer this time, traveling to visit family. You leave the inn. You walk through town. You pass the shrine. You can hear people preparing for the festival. Hanging lanterns, setting up food stalls. You don't look. You keep walking. You reach the edge of town. You take one last look back. You can see the shrine in the distance. You can see the lanterns starting to glow as the sun sets. You think about the woman by the river. You wonder if she's there. You wonder if she looked for you. You wonder if she'll remember you. Probably not. That's the point. You turn away. You start walking. The road stretches out ahead of you. Dark. Empty. You're alone again. You're always alone. You walk. This assignment takes you north. Into the mountains again. Different mountains. Different terrain. The message is memorized this time. 6 sentences. You've repeated them so many times in your head that they've lost all meaning. They're just sounds now. Just syllables that you'll deliver to someone who will understand what they mean. The journey takes 8 days. 8 days of walking. 8 days of sleeping in strange places. 8 days of being no one. By the time you reach your destination, you've almost forgotten where you started. The contact is a monk. A real monk this time. Not someone pretending. You find him at a temple in the mountains. Small temple. Remote. You deliver the message. He listens. He nods. He thanks you. He offers you tea. You accept. You sit with him in silence. Drinking tea. Watching the sun set over the mountains. He speaks. You've been doing this for a long time. You nod. Do you ever think about stopping? You don't answer right away. You think about the question. Really think about it. Sometimes, you say finally. What stops you? You don't know how to answer that. You don't know if it's fear or habit or the simple fact that you don't know how to do anything else. You just shrug. He nods. Like he understands. The Buddha teaches that all things are impermanent, he says. Even this. Even you. Even the work you do. It will all change eventually. You drink your tea. You don't respond. You're not looking for wisdom. You're not looking for comfort. You're just trying to get through another day. After a while, you stand up. You bow. You thank him for the tea. You leave. You start the journey back. 8 more days of walking. 8 more days of being alone. By the time you return to your starting point, a month has passed. A month of your life. Gone. Spent walking through mountains and delivering messages and being no one. You're 32 years old. You've been doing this for 6 years. You wonder how many more months you have. How many more years? You wonder what happens when your body can't do this anymore. When your knees give out, or your feet can't handle the miles, or your mind can't handle the isolation. You wonder if you'll know when it's time to stop, or if you'll just keep going until you can't anymore. You don't have answers to these questions. You just have the road. And the next assignment. And the one after that. You keep walking. Because that's what you do. That's all you know how to do. You're a shinobi messenger. And you're very good at not being remembered. Even by yourself. The seasons turn again. Summer fades into autumn. The leaves change color. The air gets colder. You keep working. Assignment after assignment. Town after town. Mountain pass after mountain pass. You've stopped counting. stopped keeping track of where you've been and where you're going. It all blurs together. The roads, the villages, the faces. You're moving through the world like water, following the path of least resistance, flowing around obstacles, never stopping, never settling. You've become very good at this. Maybe too good. You've started to notice that you can't remember things the way you used to. Small things, details. You can't remember the name of the village you stayed in last week. You can't remember what you ate for dinner yesterday. You can't remember the face of the person who gave you your last assignment. It's like your mind is protecting itself, refusing to hold on to information that doesn't matter, refusing to form memories that might make you vulnerable. You're becoming a ghost in your own life. This should bother you. It probably should. But it doesn't. It just is. You're sitting in a tea house when you overhear a conversation. Two merchants talking about the war, about how things are changing, about how one of the major daimyo is gaining power, consolidating territory, forming alliances. They're talking about the future, about what Japan might look like in 10 years, in 20 years. They're talking about unification, about the possibility of peace. You listen. You don't contribute. You think about what peace would mean for someone like you. No more warring daimyo. No more need for secret messages. No more need for messengers who can move through enemy territory undetected. Peace would mean you're obsolete. Peace would mean you'd have to find a new life, a new identity, a new purpose. You're not sure you know how to do that. You've been a messenger for 6 years. Before that, you were training to be a messenger. Before that, you were a child in a mountain village. You've never been anything else. Never had any other skill. Never imagined any other life. What would you do in peacetime? Farm. You left farming because you hated it. Trade. You don't know how to make anything. Don't know how to sell anything. Settle down? Where? With whom? You have no answers. So you just keep doing what you're doing. Keep walking. Keep delivering messages. Keep being invisible. Because that's all you know. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it has to be. Winter comes again. Your 7th winter doing this work. The cold is harder this year. Or maybe you're just more aware of it. More aware of how your body protests. How your joints ache. How your fingers go numb faster than they used to. You're getting older. Not old. Not yet. But older. You can feel it in the way you move. In the way you wake up stiff and sore. In the way the long walks take more out of you than they used to. You're still capable. Still reliable. Still good at the work. But you're not as resilient as you were at 26. You take an assignment in the dead of winter. A message that needs to go to a remote village in the mountains. The kind of place that's almost inaccessible in winter. The kind of place where you have to wade through snow up to your knees and hope you don't lose the path. You almost say no. Almost tell your contact that you can't do it. That it's too dangerous. That you're not equipped for it. But you don't. Because saying no means admitting that you're not capable anymore. And admitting that means you're done. Finished. Obsolete. So you say yes. You prepare carefully. Extra clothes. Extra food. Better boots. You start the journey. It's brutal. The snow is deeper than you expected. The wind is stronger. The cold is relentless. You walk for 3 days. Each day harder than the last. On the 3rd day, you fall. You're crossing a frozen stream. The ice looks solid. It's not. Your foot breaks through. You go down. Hard. You catch yourself before you go all the way in. But your leg is soaked. Your boot is full of freezing water. You pull yourself out. You sit on the bank. You're shaking. From cold, from shock. From the realization that you almost just died. You take off your boot. You wring out your sock. You wrap your foot in dry cloth. You put the boot back on. It's still wet. It's going to stay wet. And wet means cold. And cold means frostbite. You have two choices. Turn back. Or keep going. Turning back means failure. Means admitting you couldn't do it. Means losing the payment. Means losing your reputation. Keeping going means risking your foot, maybe your life. You keep going. You walk for another day. Your foot goes numb. Then it starts to hurt. A deep, burning pain that doesn't go away. You reach the village. You deliver the message. The contact takes one look at you and knows something is wrong. They give you a place to stay. They help you take off your boot. Your foot is white, bloodless. The toes are starting to turn black. Frostbite. They do what they can. Warm water. Careful warming. Herbal poultices. You stay in the village for 2 weeks, waiting for your foot to heal, or to get worse. It heals. Mostly. You lose 2 toes, the smallest ones. They just fall off. Black and dead. It could have been worse. Could have been the whole foot. Could have been your life. But it's bad enough. You can still walk. But it's different now. Your balance is off. Your gait is uneven. You have to compensate. You make the journey back. Slowly. Carefully. By the time you return, it's been a month. The longest you've ever been on a single assignment. You collect your payment. You find a room. You rest. You look at your foot. At the place where your toes used to be. You think about the fact that this job is destroying you. Piece by piece. Year by year. You think about the fact that you're going to keep doing it anyway. Because what else is there? You rest for a month. Longer than usual. You need to. Your body needs to recover. Your foot needs to adjust to its new shape. You practice walking. Relearning your balance. Figuring out how to move without the toes you lost. It's frustrating. Humiliating. You've spent 6 years perfecting the art of moving invisibly, and now you're limping like an old man. But you adapt. You always adapt. By the time spring comes, you're ready to work again. Your contact finds you. They have an assignment. A simple one. A message to a town 3 days south. They look at you carefully. They can see the limp. They can see that something has changed. They ask if you're capable. You say yes. They nod. They give you the assignment. You take it. You walk. It's harder than it used to be. Your foot hurts. Your balance is off. You're slower. But you make it. You deliver the message. You return. You're still capable. Still reliable. Just diminished. You think about the monk's words. About impermanence. About how all things change. You're changing. Your body is changing. Your capacity is changing. Eventually, you won't be able to do this anymore. Eventually, you'll have to stop. But not yet. Not today. Today, you can still walk. Still deliver messages. Still be invisible. Today, you're still a messenger. And that's enough. It has to be enough. You're sitting by a river. Different river. different town. Same routine. You're watching the water move, thinking about nothing in particular. Someone sits down next to you. You glance over. It's another messenger. You can tell. You recognize the signs. The worn clothes. The careful posture. The way they sit without really settling. They don't speak at first. They just sit, watching the water like you are. After a while, they speak. How long have you been doing this? 7 years, you say. They nod. I've been doing it for 12. You look at them. Really look at them. They're older than you. Maybe 40. Maybe older. It's hard to tell. The work ages people. 12 years, you repeat. 12 years, they confirm. And I'm done. You don't say anything. They continue. My knees are shot. My back is shot. I can't walk more than a few miles without pain. I'm done. What will you do? They shrug. I don't know. Find a village somewhere. Try to disappear for real this time. Maybe work as a guide. Maybe just exist. You nod. They look at you. You should think about it too. About when you're going to stop. Before the work stops you. You don't respond. They stand up. They bow slightly. They walk away. You sit for a long time after they're gone. You think about 12 years. About what your body will be like in 5 more years. About whether you'll even make it that long. You think about stopping. About finding a village. About trying to build a normal life. But you can't imagine it. Can't picture yourself as anything other than what you are. A messenger. A ghost. A person who walks through the world without leaving a trace. That's who you are. That's all you are. And maybe that's all you'll ever be. You stand up. You start walking. Because that's what you do. That's all you know how to do. The road stretches out ahead of you. Endless. Unchanging. You walk. 1 foot in front of the other. Mile after mile. Day after day. You're a shinobi messenger. You've been doing this for 7 years. You'll probably do it until you can't anymore. And then, you don't know. You don't think about it. You just walk. The mountains rise in the distance. The sky is clear. The air is cool. It's a good day for walking. You keep going. Because that's the job. Because that's your life. Because you don't know how to do anything else. You walk. And you'll keep walking. Until you can't.